Today, the story you're about to hear takes place in Riverton, Ohio. My name is Sarah Hayes. I'm 25, and I'm the embarrassing one in my family because I work night shifts at a frozen food factory on the edge of a small town in Ohio. I'm writing this down like a note to my future self, so I never forget the moment my mom decided my life wasn't worth bragging about. You ever sacrifice what you want for your family, only to become the person they're most ashamed of? While my brothers and sisters chased degrees and shiny careers, I stayed behind in Riverton, clocking in at the plant so we could keep the mortgage paid after my dad died. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real work. I came home smelling like freezer burn and spices, shoulders aching from lifting boxes, but at least the bills didn't bounce. To my mom, though, my steel-toe boots and hairnet meant one thing: failure. I still hear her voice from that family barbecue a couple years back, when relatives asked what I was doing with my life. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Sarah's taking some time to figure herself out. She's just helping out at a local place for now." She couldn't even say the word factory. When I tried to explain I was working overtime to keep us afloat, she pulled me aside and hissed, "Why can't you be more like your siblings? This job is embarrassing." I swallowed it. The humiliation, the anger, the way everyone's eyes slid off me like I was background noise. I told myself it was just a phase, that if I kept my head down and worked hard enough, one day she'd see me differently. I had no idea that Mother's Day was coming, and with it, a text message that would finally break me and change everything. Before I tell you exactly what my mom wrote in that Mother's Day message, and what I did after that made me disappear from their lives, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and where are you watching from? I'm really curious to see how far this story will travel. Mother's Day in Riverton always smelled like cut grass and cheap supermarket flowers. At the factory, it just smelled like garlic powder and cold metal. I was on my break, sitting on an overturned crate behind the loading dock, scrolling through my phone with numb fingers. I told myself I didn't care if I heard from my family that day. I lied. My screen lit up with a notification: Family Hayes group chat. My chest tightened. For half a second, I imagined my mom sending, "Love you all, even you, Sarah." Instead, I opened the chat and saw a long, carefully worded message. Mother's Day dinner, successful kids. Only Mark, Dr. Hayes, saving lives. Emma, our creative director, making the world beautiful. Lily, our future lawyer. I'm so proud of my accomplished children. Dinner at 6:30. Can't wait to celebrate you. She tagged Mark, Emma, and Lily. My name wasn't anywhere. Not in the message, not even in a pity heart at the end. Just 3 names, 3 golden children. Then the reactions started popping up. Mark sent a flexed bicep emoji. Emma added sparkles and hearts. Lily sent a crying happy face and, "Can't wait, Mom." I stared at the screen, refreshing, waiting for someone to notice. For my mom to follow up with, "Oh, and Sarah too." For any of my siblings to type, "What about Sarah?" The typing bubble never came. The only bubble I saw was my own reflection in the black part of the screen. Hair tucked under a factory cap, hands stained with freezer burn, eyes burning. My heart thudded in my ears. This wasn't a simple oversight. It was a public announcement. Successful kids only. The words blurred as tears pooled, but I read it again and again, each time like a punch in the ribs. I felt my throat close, that hot, humiliating sting I'd felt at the barbecue when she dodged the word factory. Except this time, she didn't dodge anything. She erased me. A moment later, my phone buzzed again. A separate notification. From Mom. A video call. I watched it ring, her smiling contact photo floating at the top of my screen like a mask. I knew exactly what this would be. Her trying to spin the message, to tell me I was overreacting if I dared be hurt. I let it ring. And ring. And finally, time out. She texted right after, "Hope you understand. Tonight is just about celebrating achievements. You know you're always part of the family. Always part of the family. Just not proud enough to be seen. Have you ever watched your own mother type a sentence that proves you're just a footnote in her life story? I didn't answer. Not her text. Not the call. Instead, I stared at the message thread until my break was over, then slid my phone into my pocket like I was burying something. I went back to the production line, but my hands moved on autopilot. In my head, something shattered. And something else, something colder, clicked into place. They had made it clear where I stood. I decided it was time I made a decision of my own. The day after Mother's Day, my alarm went off at 4:30 a.m. like always. But for the first time, I didn't wake up wondering how to make my mom proud. I woke up wondering why I'd given her that power for so long. That evening, after my shift, I sat at the small kitchen table in my studio apartment with a notebook and a pen. At the top of the page, I wrote 2 columns: Stay connected on the left, cut ties on the right. It felt dramatic, but I needed to see it in ink. Under Stay Connected, I wrote, Holidays with family. Maybe one day she'll accept me. Not being the bad daughter. Undercut ties. No more humiliation. No more waiting for an invitation that never comes. Space to build a life on my terms. Peace. The right side filled up faster than the left. Still, my hand hovered over the page. Who cuts off their own mom over a text? That voice in my head sounded a lot like hers. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. Messages flooded the family chat. Photos from the Mother's Day dinner. My mom smiling between Mark in his white coat and Emma in a sleek blazer. Lily in a floral dress, holding a bouquet. Captions like, Mom deserves the best. Proud of this family. Under one picture, my mom had commented, My 3 shining stars. Again, not even a mention of the 4th. Separate from the group, a new message appeared from Mark. Hey, heard you were busy yesterday. Mom was a little hurt. You know she didn't mean it that way. Don't make everything so dramatic. Emma added another. Next year, just, show up more with your career stuff and she'll include you. You know how she is. No one wrote. That message was wrong. The problem apparently was me. I stared at their texts, then at my pro-con list, and felt something inside me harden. They weren't asking if I was okay. They were asking me to swallow it. Again. So the family image stayed smooth. I opened the group chat, scrolled up to Mother's Day dinner, successful kids only, took a screenshot, and saved it in a locked album. Not to obsess over it, but as a reminder. A receipt of the moment my place in the family was made official. Optional. Then, with shaking fingers, I muted the group chat for a year. After that, I opened Mom's conversation, held my thumb on her name, and hit block. The system asked, Are you sure? For once, I was. I blocked Mark and Emma too. I hesitated on Lily, my baby sister who had grown up watching this dynamic like it was normal, but I left her unblocked. For now. That night, my friend and coworker Mia Brooks came over with takeout. She noticed my red eyes, the open notebook, the locked screen on my phone. What happened? She asked, sitting across from me. I slid the notebook toward her. She read both columns, then looked up. You already know your answer, Sarah. You wrote it. My voice was barely a whisper. Would you cut off your own family if they never saw your worth? If they literally wrote you out of their life like a typo? She didn't hesitate. I'd cut off anyone who made me feel smaller on purpose. Blood or not. In that moment, something settled. I picked up my pen and, at the bottom of the right column, wrote in all caps, I choose me. The next morning, I woke up with puffy eyes but a strange lightness in my chest. For the first time, family wasn't automatic. It was a choice. And I had finally made one. Once the noise of the group chat was gone, my life got quieter. Not empty, just quieter. No more constant alerts of celebrations I wasn't invited to. No more subtle jabs wrapped in, just joking. In that silence, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. My own thoughts. I doubled down at the factory, not to prove anything to my mom this time, but to prove something to myself. When my manager, Rachel Turner, mentioned that the company would reimburse part of the tuition for technical courses, I didn't brush it off like I usually did. I signed up for night classes at Riverton Technical College, industrial safety, process improvement, basic engineering concepts. If I was just a factory worker, I'd be the kind who knew every inch of the line. Mia joined me for one of the classes, and we became those annoying people who sat in the front row, asking questions and sharing notes. We'd grab coffee from the vending machine, laughing about how we were too tired to be this ambitious. But inside, something new grew. A quiet pride that had nothing to do with a framed degree and everything to do with choosing my path. One Tuesday evening, I was rushing into the building, a stack of worksheets in my arms, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Sarah?" It was small, hesitant. I froze. I turned around and saw Lily standing by the bulletin board, clutching a backpack. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she was wearing a college hoodie. For a second, it felt like I'd been punched and hugged at the same time. "Lily," I managed. She nodded, eyes wide. "I didn't know you were taking classes here." I swallowed. "I didn't know you were either." Silence stretched. Then she blurted, "Mom doesn't know I signed up for this program. She thinks I'm just sticking to law school stuff, but I wanted to see what else was out there." There it was, a crack in the perfect image. We sat on a bench in the hallway, knees almost touching. "I saw the Mother's Day message," she said quietly. I wanted to say something, but Mark told me not to stir things up. I'm sorry, Sarah." Her apology hit harder than my mom's text. "It wasn't your job to fix it," I said, even as part of me wished she'd tried. Lily twisted the strap of her bag. "Mom's been weird since then. She acts like everything's fine, but she keeps bringing you up. Not in a good way. More like, she's mad you're not chasing the path she planned for you. And now that you're gone, she keeps asking why you're overreacting." She's embarrassed, but she'd never admit it. "So she's embarrassed that I'm embarrassed?" I snorted. "That tracks." Lily gave me a sad smile. "She cares, in her own messed up way. She just can't handle that you chose something she doesn't respect. And now people at church keep asking why you're never around. She hates not having an answer that makes her look good." There it was, the first sign of consequences. My quiet disappearance was messing with her carefully curated story. Lily took a breath. "I miss you, but I kind of get why you did what you did." My chest tightened. "You know you don't have to repeat her cycle, right? You can choose what you want. Even if it's not shiny enough for the group chat." She nodded slowly. "Are you ever coming back? To family stuff?" That question sat heavy between us. "When success finally started finding me," I said carefully, "the first thing I felt wasn't, 'I can't wait to show Mom.' It was relief that I didn't owe her anything anymore. So I don't know, Lil. Right now, I need distance more than I need a seat at that table." We both fell silent. A professor walked by, fumbling with keys. The hallway smelled like dry erase markers and old carpet. Before we parted ways, Lily squeezed my hand. "For what it's worth, I think what you're doing is brave. I just wish Mom could see it." As I walked into class, my mind was spinning. My mom's choice had started a chain reaction she couldn't control. Her successful kids-only dinner had cost her more than one child's attendance. It was starting to chip away at the loyalty of the others. I wondered, when you finally start succeeding on your own terms, would you go back to the people who called your path worthless? Or keep walking without looking over your shoulder? My promotion came on a random Thursday. Rachel pulled me into her office, closed the door, and said, Sarah, you've been running circles around half the people here. I want you as a line supervisor on the new frozen meals project. More pay, more responsibility. You in? I was stunned. A year ago, if I'd gotten that news, my first thought would have been, Mom is going to have to brag about this. This time, my first thought was, I did this. Me. I accepted the promotion. The new role was intense, scheduling shifts, handling breakdowns, smoothing out team conflicts. But it gave me something I'd never really had before: authority. People looked to me for answers. They trusted me. And not because I had a fancy degree, but because I'd been in the trenches with them. Still, late at night, old doubts crept in. Without thinking, I would unlock my phone and hover over my mom's contact, even though it was blocked. Or I'd scroll past photos of my siblings' achievements shared by mutual acquaintances. My stomach twisted every time I saw a post about "so proud of my kids," with 3 smiling faces and a mysterious invisible fourth. One weekend, after a particularly weird spiral of stalking social media and cursing myself for caring, I opened the Notes app on my phone and started typing. At first, it was just a rant about blue-collar work and how people like my mom treated it like failure. But the more I wrote, the more it turned into something bigger. By the time I finished, I had a long, raw piece about dignity, class, and how families weaponize success. On impulse, I copied it into an anonymous blog on a platform Mia had told me about. I hit publish before I could talk myself out of it, titled it, "Successful Kids Only, When Your Family Invites Everyone But You." I didn't put my name. I didn't mention specific cities. But I did describe the group chat. The exact line. Mother's Day dinner, successful kids only. I described the feeling of watching your name go missing from your own mother's sentence. I asked, right there in the middle of the post, does your self-worth depend on the people who refuse to see it? Or can you learn to build it anyway? I expected maybe 3 people to read it. Instead, within a week, it had thousands of views. Comments poured in from strangers. I thought I was the only one. My mom did something similar when I became a mechanic. Cutting contact saved my life. The validation from people who didn't know me hid in a way my mom's silence never could. Mia found the blog and messaged me, "This is you, isn't it? I'm proud of you for telling the truth." Then something interesting happened. One of my mom's church friends, someone I still had on social media, shared the article on her page with the caption, "This broke my heart. Parents, don't do this to your kids." The next day, another mutual shared it. The story was traveling in the same circles my mom moved in, and she had no idea she was the villain, or maybe she did. Because a few days later, an unknown number called my phone. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened. It was my mom's voice, strained and tight. "Sarah, it's Mom. I heard this story going around online. People keep sending it to me, saying it sounds familiar. I hope you're not involved in anything that makes our family look bad. We need to talk. Call me back." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Did I hurt you?" Just concern about how she looked. I didn't call her back. I saved the voicemail, though. Another receipt. As the blog continued to circulate, Rachel pulled me aside at work one day. "Hey, random question," she said. "I read this post about someone whose mom excluded them from a Mother's Day dinner. The author sounded a lot like you." I felt my cheeks heat. "Maybe," I said carefully. She smiled. "If it was you, you should know. It was powerful. And anyone who can lead on the line and write like that? You're going places, Hayes. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." That night, I printed my blog post and the pro-con list from months before. I put them in a folder labeled, "Proof I'm Not Crazy." When the doubts came, I opened it and reminded myself, I had the right to define my worth. My mom could lose sleep over public perception if she wanted. I was done losing sleep over her approval. The community event invitation came through Mia. "They're doing a storytelling night downtown," she said, waving a flyer in my face during our lunch break. "Theme is, when family crosses the line. You have to do it." "Absolutely not," I said through a mouthful of sandwich. "It's one thing to write anonymously, it's another to stand on a stage and tell everyone my mom's worst moment." Mia grinned. "Or your strongest. Think about all the people who commented on your blog. What if they were in that room? You could be the reason someone finally walks away from a toxic situation." The idea burrowed into my brain and refused to leave. A week later, my name was on the event lineup. The night of the storytelling event, my hands shook so badly I almost dropped the mic. The room was a mix of strangers, some in hoodies, some in business casual, some with tear-streaked makeup like they'd already heard something that hit too close. I cleared my throat and started with the line I knew would land. My mom called me embarrassing because I chose factory work. A murmur swept through the room. I told them about the barbecue, the dodged explanations, the Mother's Day text. I recited the exact words, watching faces flinch at "successful kids only." I talked about the pro-con list, the blocked numbers, the blog, the voicemail where my mom was more worried about her reputation than my heart. In the middle, I paused and asked the question that had once gutted me. Have you ever looked at your own family and realized you're only loved on their terms? That their love disappears the moment you stop making them look good? Dozens of people nodded, a few wiped tears. It was like breathing underwater my whole life and suddenly hitting air. I ended with this. I used to believe that family was a debt I owed, that if they gave me life, I had to give them my silence. Now I know something else. I can love where I come from and still walk away from the parts that are killing me. When I stepped off stage, people hugged me, thanked me, told me pieces of their own stories. One woman whispered, "I screenshotted my mom's text the day she uninvited me from Christmas. Hearing you say it out loud, I think I can finally stop feeling guilty." On the bus home, I scrolled through my phone and my heart stuttered. My blog post had been shared by a bigger page, someone with hundreds of thousands of followers, along with a caption, "The successful kids only mom is why so many of us are in therapy." The comments were a war zone, but most were on the side of kids like me. Buried midway down the comment thread, I saw a familiar name, Lily Hayes. She had written, "Sometimes the successful kids are just the ones who learned how to perform. The others are just trying to survive." I stared at her comment, feeling both proud and protective. Later that week, Lily texted me directly. "Saw your talk on someone's story. It was you, right?" I confirmed. After a long pause, she replied, "Mom saw it too. She's not handling it well. People at church are talking. She says you're airing family business. But honestly, maybe someone needed to." Knowing my story had cracked her perfect facade should have felt like cheap revenge. Instead, it felt like balance. Actions meet consequences. As I lay in bed that night, exhaustion wrapped around me, but beneath it was something softer. I realized I had built a small, messy, beautiful community, people from work, from class, from that event, who saw me. No degrees, no titles, just me. Maybe family didn't have to mean shared DNA. Maybe it could mean shared survival. Where have you found your chosen family? The people who made you feel more at home than your own house ever did. A few years slipped by in a way that did not feel dramatic from the inside. There was no single explosion, no big screaming match. Just a series of days where I woke up, went to work, did my job well, came home to a quiet apartment that slowly filled up with signs of a life I had chosen instead of a life I had been assigned. I moved up again at the factory, this time into a role that had me traveling between plants, helping other supervisors fix their lines and train their teams. I had a beat-up company laptop, a suitcase that stayed half-packed, and a calendar that did not revolve around family holidays anymore. My phone contacts list got shorter, but my world got bigger. I kept writing too. The blog that had started as a late-night vent turned into a place where people checked in regularly. I posted about boundaries, about the weird guilt that comes with saying no to your own parents, about blue-collar pride. Sometimes I wrote about small moments at work that would have meant nothing to my mom, but meant everything to me. Like the day a new hire told me, "You are the first boss I ever had who did not talk down to me." That comment meant more than any forced congratulations from my old life ever could. Every so often, I would get updates about my family through other people. A coworker who still went to my mom's church would mention hearing my last name in a prayer request. Online, I would see my siblings tagged in pictures without me. Lily and I texted now and then, keeping it light unless one of us had a bad day and needed the other to say, "No, you are not crazy. This really happened." From her, I found out that my mom had not let the story go. The post, the talk, the way people online latched onto the phrase "successful kids only," it all got under her skin. She hated that there was a whole corner of the internet where she was a character and not the author. She changed churches for a while, then went back. She complained that people were judging her, that they did not understand what it was like to raise kids these days. She did not, as far as I knew, ever say to them, "I hurt my daughter, and I am trying to make it right." Then life did what it always does. It added more pressure. My mom had health issues, the kind people whisper about in grocery store aisles: high blood pressure, stress, time off work, bills stacking up. The house I grew up in needed repairs. At first, I heard about it in pieces from Lily, almost apologetically, like she did not want me to think she was using our relationship to pass messages. Then one night, while I was sitting on my couch with my suitcase half packed for another trip, she called with that voice that meant something big had happened. "Mom wants your number," she said. "She says she needs to talk to you." I could hear from the way she said it that this was not about feelings. I asked why, even though I already knew. Lily sighed. "She is behind on payments, the roof is leaking, the hospital bills are a lot. She heard you are doing well now, traveling for work, maybe speaking at events. She keeps saying, if Sarah really cared about family, she would step up." There it was, clear as day. Not "I miss you," not "I am sorry" for that text, not "I have been thinking about what I did to you." Just if she cared, she would fix it. The old version of me, the one who stayed behind and picked up extra shifts, because I felt responsible for everyone, flared up for a second. I pictured my mom sitting alone in the living room, the house dim, the walls a little more cracked than I remembered. I imagined her complaining to her friends that her daughter had abandoned her. Guilt is sneaky like that. It does not care how many times you have been hurt. It only cares that you were trained to answer when someone says family. I took a slow breath and asked Lily, "What do you think I should do?" She was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "I think you have already done more than anyone knows. You kept the lights on when Dad died. You stayed when everyone else left. You paid for things you could not even afford." Mom never counted any of that when she wrote that Mother's Day text. "I do not think you owe her a rescue now. She is going to call you cruel for that, but I do not think it is cruel. I think it is just consequences." Hearing my baby sister say the word consequences about our mother was like hearing a door click shut in my head that had been stuck half open for years. It did not slam. It just closed. Gently, but firmly. I told Lily she could give Mom a message, but not my number. "Tell her I hope she takes care of her health," I said. "Tell her I hope she gets the help she needs and that she deserves support as a person. But also tell her I am not her backup plan. She chose who counted when she was on top. I am not going to pretend that never happened now that she is struggling. Lily let out a breath like she had been holding it. She is going to say you took everything from her, she warned. I shook my head even though she could not see it. She still has 3 kids who show up for her. She has her friends, her church group. I did not take everything from her. I just stopped letting her take everything from me. A few weeks later, a small package showed up at my apartment. No return address, but the handwriting on the label was burned into my memory from years of signed permission slips and sticky notes on the fridge. Inside was a little jewelry box with my initials on it from when I was a kid, and a letter. The letter was exactly what you would expect from someone who had never learned how to say "I am sorry" without twisting it. She never wrote those 3 words. Instead, she wrote, I know I was not a perfect mother, but you misunderstood so much of what I tried to do. She wrote, I only wanted the best for you. She wrote, you have hurt me deeply by taking our private issues and making them public. People look at me differently now. I cannot even sit in church without wondering who is whispering about that story. And near the end, she wrote, after everything I did for you, the least you could do is help me in my time of need. That sentence sat on the page like a dare. There was a time when I would have grabbed a pen, called her, begged her to see my side, offered money I barely had. This time, I put the letter down and did something else. I grabbed the same notebook that had my Stay Connected and Cut Ties list, the one with my blog printed out and my little list of victories. On a clean page, I wrote, here is what is real. Then I forced myself to list the facts, not the feelings. I did not post her name. I did not show her picture. I told my story in a way that protected her identity more than she had ever protected my dignity. I did not cause her health problems. I did not make people whisper. Her own choices did that. I spent years helping this family in ways nobody outside the house ever saw. That work counted, even if she pretended it did not. I read those lines out loud to myself until they felt more solid than the guilt. Then I took her letter, folded it back up, and put it in the box. I did not throw it away, but I did not let it dictate my next move either. I did not call her. I did not send money. The only thing I sent was one short text through Lily, who agreed to pass it along word for word. It said, I hope you take care of your health and find the support you need. I am not able to step back into this role. I wish you peace. That was it. No long explanations. No reopening old wounds so she could poke them. Just a boundary stated calmly, like the weather. A few days later, Lily texted and said, she cried, then called you ungrateful, then told her friends you had abandoned her. But she also stopped asking for your number. Something in her seemed to understand you meant it this time. I will not pretend it felt amazing. It did not feel like a victory lap. It felt heavy and sad and strangely calm all at once. There is a kind of grief that comes with choosing your own peace over a relationship you spent your whole life trying to fix. People like to put a bow on it, to say, and then I never thought about it again, and everything was perfect. That is not how it works. I still have nights where I miss the idea of a mom more than I miss the person. I still have flashes of memory, like that old video of 12-year-old me with the lopsided cake that make my chest ache. But those feelings do not cancel out the reality of what she did. They just make me human. A while after the letter, I wrote one last post for the blog, at least one last chapter about this specific story. I wrote about the package, about reading her words and choosing not to let them drag me back into the same role. I wrote about how it is possible to hope someone gets better without volunteering to be their medicine. I ended with something that felt like the truest thing I had learned. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself, and weirdly for them, is to step out of a role that was destroying you. Love does not always mean access. Forgiveness does not always mean reunion. Family should not be built on humiliation and fear, but on respect and choice. And you are allowed to build a new definition of family with people who do not need you to bleed to prove your loyalty. When I hit publish, I did not feel triumph. I felt finished. Like I had finally told the whole story, not just the parts that made me look good or her look bad, but the parts that showed how complicated it really was. I walked out onto my tiny balcony that night and looked at the lights from the factory in the distance. That same building where I once read a message that said successful kids only and realized I was not invited had become the place where I finally proved to myself that my success did not need her stamp of approval. I still wear steel toe boots. I still clock in. I still get grease under my nails some days. But I no longer hear her voice in my head every time I swipe my badge. Instead, I hear my own. And sometimes the voices of friends and coworkers and strangers who say, "Thank you for telling the truth." So after everything you have heard, if you were standing where I am now, with a parent asking you to step back into a role that once crushed you, would you give them what they are asking for and call it forgiveness? Or would you choose your own freedom and trust that you are not selfish for finally putting yourself first? Our team is dedicated to crafting meaningful, emotionally engaging stories for the channel. Revenge Red. All stories on this channel are purely fictional and are created to deliver thoughtful lessons and positive educational value to our audience. Each story explores real-life emotions, family dynamics, and personal choices to help viewers reflect on empathy, self-worth, and healthy boundaries. Through fictional storytelling, we aim to encourage emotional growth, resilience, and deeper understanding of human relationships. Our goal is not to promote conflict, but to inspire learning and self-reflection through powerful narratives.